Hare Krishna, Namaste, Chapter 18, which is entitled as Sannyasa Yoga. Sloka 51 through 53, Part 2. Buddhyā viśuddhayā yuktaḥ dhṛtyātmānaṁ niyamya ca śabdādīn viśayāṁs tyaktvā rāga-dveṣau vyudasya ca vivikta-sevī laghv-āśī yata-vāk-kāya-mānasaḥ dhyāna-yoga-paro nityaṁ vairāgyaṁ samupāśritaḥ ahaṅkāraṁ balaṁ darpaṁ kāmaṁ krodhaṁ parigraham vimucya nirmamaḥ śāntah brahma-bhūyāya kalpate. Being purified by his intelligence and controlling the mind with determination, giving up the objects of sense gratification, being freed from attachment and hatred, one who lives in a secluded place, who eats little, who controls his body, mind, and power of speech, who is always in trance and who is detached, free from false ego, false strength, false pride, lust, anger, and acceptance of material things, free from false proprietorship, and peaceful. Such a person is certainly elevated to the position of self-realization. In this list, we covered 5 so far. Buddhyā viśuddhayā yuktaḥ, that is, one who is endowed with the purified buddhi. Number 2, dhṛtyātmānaṁ niyamya, apply the dhriti, the sattviki dhriti. Number 3, śabdādīn viśayāṁs tyaktvā, control of senses from the sense objects. rāga-dveṣau vyudasya, casting aside likes and dislikes relating to the sense objects. That's number 4. And number 5, the last one we saw in the previous session, is vivikta-sevī, in a secluded place to perform dhyāna. The next in the list is laghv-āśī, keeping the body very light. The body can be kept only light when the belly is not heavily loaded. If one's stomach is loaded heavily, that means it leads one into mode of ignorance and makes a person to become lazy and sleepy. At the same time, it is important not eating is also not a good practice. One should not eat too much, one should not eat too little. The eating should be very moderate so that it helps for one to stay healthy and active to perform dhyana. Next in the list is yata-vāk-kāya-mānasaḥ, the activities of the mind, speech and body should be made conducive to meditation. That is, engaging the body in a proper posture. One has to sit properly in a straight line, as already mentioned by Krishna in the 6th chapter. And one should have a control of their speech, in other words, silence. Utter nothing other than pranava, the pranava mantra. And for those who are chanting, they do not talk anything else. They do not get distracted with any other side talks, but only focusing on chanting. One may say, I do not talk with anyone, I chant, but I just respond to the messages I get on my cell phone. But that is also talking. Well, I do not talk mundane thing. I chat with devotees regarding Krishna consciousness while I'm chanting. What's wrong in that? Well, then we are not going to get the complete result of our chanting. The chanting time should be for chanting. The chatting time with devotees should be for chatting alone, not while we are chanting. For that matter, Not even while we are honoring prasadam, eating. Eating should be focused on only that activities. Chanting should be focused on chanting. This is how one can really bring the mind under control. The mind is already multitasking, and if we are going to facilitate doing these different activities, then we are simply supporting mind's business of wandering all different places. Therefore, body, speech and mind. The mind should constantly think about the auspicious form of Krishna. One can meditate upon one's Atma, one can meditate upon Paramatma, also one can meditate on one's Guru. That is also very well accepted in dhyana program. So, to perform dhyana, speech, body and mind should all be in sync for one purpose. These three should be organized. The body should be in a proper posture. The speech, that is, one should chant, and what we chant is what contemplated in the mind. That is number 7, yata-vāk-kāya-mānasaḥ. Number 8, dhyāna-yoga-paro nityaṁ. Everyday meditation should be continued. Gradually, one should maximize that period. Initially, one may chant one round of mala, say Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and try to focus on the name, the sound. Then gradually that one round of mala can be increased to 2 rounds, then to 3 rounds, and 4 rounds, and so forth. It is not simply increasing of number of rounds. It is the quality in which one chants the rounds. That means one focuses, meditates upon the holy name. Both dhyana and karma should be performed. If one does only dhyana but not the karma activities, it is called jnana yoga. When one does karma without giving up dhyana, that is called karma yoga. One more time, a person only focuses on dhyana but does not perform karma. They are jnana yogis. When a person performs karma along with dhyana, and they are karma yogis. When one does karma alone without any dhyana, and they are called karmis. They do not fall into the yoga system. They are materialistic. Number 9, vairāgyaṁ samupāśritaḥ. Being very analytical, one who analyzes and understands the faults of the material things. This is important. Unless until one knows the faults of material things, one will not get detached from those material things, because one may think they are the best. They don't have any faults. But one who is in this stage knows very well all the material things has some faults. By knowing so, one becomes dispassionate. Otherwise, the opposite will happen, becomes passionate about material things. In number 4, what we saw earlier, rāga-dveṣau vyudasya, that is, it referred to elimination of likes and dislikes for sense objects. What has been mentioned here, vairāgyaṁ samupāśritaḥ, is to practice avoiding the company of any relations. That is, raising above from any love and affection to the company of relations. Vairāgyaṁ. How do one get vairāgyaṁ? Number 1, one must analyze and understand the defects of those sense objects. These sense objects can be matter or a living entity. Avoid them. Number 2, raga, that is having attachment towards Paramatma. and vairāgyaṁ towards other things. This is the ninth one, vairāgyaṁ samupāśritaḥ. Number 10, ahaṅkāraṁ. Ahaṅkāraṁ is anātmani ātmābhimānaṁ, thinking of oneself to be this body, or to be the mind, or to be the prana, or to be the organs. So being free from ahaṅkāraṁ. Number 11, balaṁ. This happens due to the previous vasanas. The balaṁ mentioned here is vasana balaṁ, the impression, the strength of the impression from the previous lifetimes that is being carried life after life after life. The strength of the evil tendencies which cause mistaking that one to be the body. But we should know that strength of the body, mind and prana are not inimical to yoga. So that has not been mentioned here. What has been mentioned is the vasana balaṁ, the evil tendency that we have been carrying for many lifetimes, which makes us to think that we are this body. So one should be free of this vasana balaṁ. Number 12, darpaṁ, arrogance, which is generated because of the previous one. The previous one, what we saw, was ahaṅkāra. That ahaṅkāra generates darpaṁ, arrogance. This darpaṁ prevents acceptance of what should be accepted. That is, acceptance of authority, elders' instruction. Rather, one start disrespecting the elders, thinking oneself to be a great yogi, oneself to be a transcendental person. I am great yogi. I am above the modes. I have attained the transcendental stage. I have accomplished so much. I have achieved so much. So thinking oneself to be accomplished and achieved in spiritual path is also quite dangerous, because that may push one to think to be greater than the other person, and thinking I can do anything, everything, also thinking I am very detached. All this will make oneself think to be greater and others to be cheaper, useless, lesser, and then the behavior towards others will be very arrogant, insulting. This is not at all good for one who is in the spiritual path. Therefore, one must be free from arrogance. If anyone get caught into the thought of thinking oneself to be in a higher position, oneself to be great, as they say, oneself to be sitting on a high horse, then one will for sure become arrogant. Therefore, it is important one take extra care to be free of this darpaṁ. Number 13, kāmaṁ, and the next one can also be combined to this one, krodhaṁ, is anger. Kāmaṁ, the hankering for any object other than one's self, other than Atma, that is kāmaṁ. When that kāmaṁ is not fulfilled, what comes immediately is krodhaṁ, anger. That is number 14. This anger arises from the frustration of not able to fulfill the kāmaṁ. That anger is directed to the agent who caused the frustration, who became the cause of not able to attain the kāmaṁ. Number 15, parigraham vimucya, discarding the objects connected with the body, that is, forsaking the pride, greed, etc. In other words, strengthening the ability to discriminate between the body and the self. Unless and until one has the strength to discriminate the body and the self, one will not be able to discard the pride, greed, etc. As long as we understand ourselves wrongly as this body, we will have pride, we will have greed, we will have lust, and so forth. Number 16. Nirmamaḥ, clear understanding that nothing relates to my Atma. Whatever I think that it's related to me is only to my body, not to my Atma. My spouse, my children, my father, mother, brother, sister, they are all related to this body, but not to my Atma. Therefore, nothing belongs to me. Nirmamaḥ, everything belongs to the Supreme Lord. Number 16, or if you are counting kāmaṁ and krodha separately, then it is number 17. Śāntah. In this current context, this term means the joy in experiencing the self. When one experiences the joy of self, one will be in peace. Śāntah. Having found this joy, is completely dispassionate towards anything else, towards any sense object, and free of desire, anger, etc., because he is in peace. And also his sense organs do not lead him to inappropriate objects. That is Śāntah. It's like when a child finds something better than what it already has, then he gives up the lower one and takes up the higher one. Likewise, a person who has found the joy of experiencing the self, their senses will not be wandering. Their mind will not be wandering towards the other sense objects. Śāntah. So these are the 17 items, which then leads one to brahma-bhūyāya kalpate. Brahma refers to the self here, Atma. One who is already a jiva attains the nature of the self, means that all the sins that were obstructing in his path will be removed, and he will be able to experience the self to the fullest. To summarize, one should have a clear knowledge regarding the self as it really is, with firm determination. The mind should be prevented from engaging itself on anything other than the self, and should be focused steadfast on the self. Sense objects like sound, touch, etc. must be eliminated, and one should be free from attraction and aversion for the sense objects. One should live in a secluded place which is free from any kind of hindrance to meditation on the self. Food is to be had moderately. The mind, speech, and body should be trained to facilitate the meditation. He should devoutly be engaged in meditation daily. Disinterestedness in everything other than the self should be strengthened. The practitioner should get rid of the wrong notion that the body is the self, and he should eradicate the arrogance nourished by the wrong notion, desire and anger, and completely disregard all objects which generate these qualities. He should also get rid of possessiveness. He who relinquishes what ought to be cast away and finds highest joy in meditation on the self becomes worthy to experience the self as it really is. With these things, one will able to get the Atma Darshana, the vision of the Atma. So what is after this? Is that all, or anything beyond Atma Darshana is what going to be discussed in the next sloka. We went through many things in these 2 sessions on these 3 slokas little faster, because many of these things are not to be new. We have discussed this in the previous chapters, so we spent less time on these. If anything needs further explanation, kindly submit your questions. buddhyā viśuddhayā yuktah dhṛtyātmānaṁ niyamya ca śabdādīn viśayāṁs tyaktvā rāga-dveṣau vyudasya ca vivikta-sevī laghv-āśī yata-vāk-kāya-mānasaḥ dhyāna-yoga-paro nityaṁ vairāgyaṁ samupāśritaḥ ahaṅkāraṁ balaṁ darpaṁ kāmaṁ krodhaṁ parigraham vimucya nirmamaḥ śāntah brahma-bhūyāya kalpate. Namaste. Hare Krishna.